Welcome to the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast with your co-hosts Teague Fenwick and Steve Lurkwood.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. I'm your host, Teague Fenwick, coming to you from Holmen. Joining me, as always, not hails from Waterloo, lives in Waterloo right now, hails from Wrightstown, is in Wrightstown, in the Wrightstown Wrestling Room, mind you, Steve Lurkwin. Steve, hey. It's really great to be here tonight, isn't it?
It's pumped. I mean, I always love doing our podcast, but right now when you can smell wrestling and it's hot and it's sticky and you got there's open mat going on behind me, you might hear some ugs and thuds and things like that. It brings it all together. So yeah, long and short of it is I'm up visiting my parents. Their internet is less than stellar. So Matt Verbaten allowed me to come on up here and shoot from here. So I'm pretty pumped. And I tell you, this wrestling room is amazing. I mean, T, you and I have talked about always wanting to do a top 10 wrestling rooms in the state. And I haven't seen enough to really know whether it is or not, but I'll move out of the way a little bit here. This thing is, it's amazing. I mean, it's got the subfloor in it, right, with the springs and the wall, the I don't even know what you call that wall over there. I should probably learn these things beforehand, but the history on the back wall, the state qualifier, state champs, it's just beautiful up here.
Well, Steve, when you make that list, I'll need to double check it to make sure there's no Wrightstown bias in it.
Well, definitely. I know Holman's got a pretty good. I mean, we went to Caston, right? You and I did the sectional championship at Caston, and even Caston's got a smaller one, but it's nice, right? I just like walking into wrestling rooms, and it's nostalgic. You see all the names on the wall, the things that the wrestlers that you remember, and it just has that smell and that feel to it. I don't care if it's a tiny one or a huge one like this, or it's beautiful, or it's wherever it is a wrestling team has to practice. I think it's a great spot.
Yes, sir. Well, Steve, I know you're away from your parents because they have spotty internet. We've had our fair share of technology issues over the last 200 episodes, but thankfully our guest tonight won't have technology issues because we learned his dad works in computer sciences, so I think we'll be set there. But Steve, I'm pumped for this one, man. We talk about friends of the show. If there's a best friend, this might be it right here. So this carries some sentimental value, but also you just hear a lot of good things about this guy as well. It seems like this has been a long time coming. So without further ado, we'll introduce our guest. He's a 3-time state place winner from Campbellsport, capped off his career with the state title at D2, won at 26 as a senior this year. Talking about none other than the Haitian sensation himself, Mr. Ostin Blanchard. Ostin, glad to have you on, man.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're pumped for this one.
Yeah, T, you weren't kidding when you said the best friend of the show. I mean, last year when we were doing team shout-outs, I swear, and Ostin, I don't know how you did it, but every time I would post, it was usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock. That's when I had my prep. And I would go ahead and I'd make the Instagram post. And I bet you out of the 100 and some that we did, Ostin was the first one to like it at least 100 times. So it was awesome.
I don't know, man. It always popped up. I always have the notification bell on for it. So.
It's an acute sense of timing. Yeah, I was going to say it was either notifications or really, really good timing.
And I think I sent you a direct message one time, and I said, Ostin, you're supposed to be in history class. Pay attention.
Oh, good stuff. Well, Ostin, we usually start off with all our guests asking their wrestling story, but just talking to a couple people that know you well, it seems like you have a pretty interesting life story. So let's go back to your earliest memories, and we'll go with the life story tonight, sir.
Oh, all right. So I was born in Haiti in 2004, October 8th. So when I was about 9 years old was when I got adopted. So 2 Americans came down, and they were originally looking for girls. But funniest thing happened was I took someone's camera because it was interesting to me, right? I've never seen technology before. And later that day, they actually brought me in the room and They're like, yeah, that's the kid that had our camera earlier. So, by it was just surprising that to that day that's the funniest story. That's how they actually remembered me, was because I took their camera. But so then I got adopted in 2014. I came 2013 actually. November was quite cold when I came home. I remember that. Wasn't used to the snow. No. Um,
So for the
so
plane ride, did you like have the were you like dressed and ready to go, or were you like rocking like t-shirt and sandals when you were getting
yeah,
off the plane?
t-shirts and sandals because we stopped in Miami first and then came home. And then
Oh.
yeah, we actually stopped in Miami for a little vacation there. But then when we came to Wisconsin, I was like, I got off the plane but wanted to go right back because I felt the cold for the first time and it wasn't the best feeling either. So then I would say like around what would I say a week home, and like it snowed for the first time, and I actually went outside and I did snow angels, and um, that was actually pretty awesome because it wasn't as cold then. But that year for me was a little miserable because somehow I lost my winter jacket. I wasn't good at with keeping things together as a little kid, I would say. So I lost a winter jacket, my gloves, my hat, you know. So that year was pretty fun for my parents because there was a lot of things lost for sure. Um, but around that time was, I think I got into wrestling. Um, Third grade. Yeah, third grade, they introduced me into it. It was just something they threw me into, like burn energy. It wasn't something just because, like, because my dad did wrestle too in high school, but like, it wasn't that like he had some career for me or some goal. Just threw me in it for energy wise, and as every other kid, I was not the best as a little kid. I remember one tournament going 0-6, and I don't know. It wasn't the best either for me, but so that was third grade. I did it fourth grade too, and I did okay. I did the same amount exactly. And then I think there was a year, fifth grade, yeah, was the year where I actually took off and I didn't do it at all. In middle school I came back to the sport, and I actually had a little fire for it. Then that was when I actually started winning a little bit. And then I liked it a little more. Grade year was probably the year where I was like, I was gonna go into high school, and I was like, I'm gonna play basketball. I told everyone, and everyone laughed because I'm this 5 foot nothing kid who thinks he's gonna play basketball, right? So I get I get to my freshman year. I played football that year. I was one of the smallest kids on the team too, so that didn't go great for me too. So I knew that after that year I wasn't gonna play football again. But then my dad was like, "Well, why don't you just give it 2 weeks? Try wrestling. If you don't like it, fine." He's like, "We'll come and support you, and as you warm the bench for however many years that is, because I was not the greatest basketball player either. I was gonna play a sport, but it was not gonna be wrestling, I thought. So I gave it 2 weeks. That year, Ryan Costello was the new coach because he took over for Mark Peterson, and I actually liked it for those 2 weeks. Learned a lot. I mean, that year was rough for me though. It really was. Sometimes you'll ask him, and that probably was the best year for me though, because I learned so much from my teammates and my coach also. But also, I would say going 18-19, which was my record that year, uh, and going to sectionals and not being able to, and I didn't place. I had let's see, I ran into Tommy Larson at sectionals as a tough match. I had Devin Gore. My sectionals was loaded, but just losing those two matches, I found some kind of fire in. And most people would tell you they would have never predicted me to become this kind of athlete that I am now. I mean, one match my freshman year, I locked my hand so many times I lost the match because I locked my hand.
Oh man.
My coach actually told me to cut the guy, and he's like, "No more riding. You can't ride
Right.
because you lost your hands." So,
Wow.
So that was, I mean, no one would have ever predicted that. So right
So
then,
just a couple of questions on your freshman year, and also for reference too, you also had Andrew Shad in your bracket. So I think
yes, I did.
at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
two of them placed at sectional. So the fact that you made it there was a big accomplishment in itself. If you upset one of those three, that would have been pretty monumental. But I gotta ask, was this the year? We do have a picture of you with a backwards singlet.
I was. Yes,
How was
was.
that an accident? Did you do that like to like
That
make a
was
scene or
total
what?
accident. Yes, that was
Teague,
an accident.
Teague, I was hoping you could. I mean, you're pretty good with technology, and I know there's a share screen option out here, man. That'd be really cool if you could pop that bad boy out, or maybe you know what? Maybe we'll use that as our promotion picture for hosting.
We'll get a picture. Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
You bet. We'll get one of him on the podium, and then from backward singlet to state champion. That's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
story.
So that story is it was the biggest duel that year. It was us against Kiosk, and we always had this little rivalry. And right, I get out there and I'm like, so I shake the guy's hand, and then our 113, who at the time was a state qualifier himself too that year before that, he's like, your singlet's on backwards, and I'm like, oh my god, my singlet's on backward. So I run over there to like the back of the bleachers and I change, and till this day that is one of the funniest moments ever though. But yes, that was not meant to happen. It just, I don't know what I was doing at that moment. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, I did have my singlet on backwards, and I can't forget that one.
So Olston, before your freshman year, goal wise, because you're a guy, you were kind of on the fence between basketball and wrestling, and I also was my freshman year, which I think that's the only commonality we share when it comes to wrestling. But aside from we wrestled regionals 4 times, but what were your goals? Like, did you even have like a 4-year plan yet, or was your goal maybe just to like get through the season at that point?
The goal was to get through the season. I didn't really start thinking about goals until after my freshman year. That was when I used that word a lot then after that. But before that, no, I mean, it was nothing to me. I'd show up to practice. I'd work as hard as I could. I mean, wait, I'm having some difficulty here.
Oh, we can hear you just fine, or
Yeah,
can
you
you not
sound
hear
good.
us?
The screen is there's something else going on here. Just
I jinxed it. I apologize.
You know, it'll probably be a better podcast for you if you can't see me. I know that.
Now, Steve,
Yeah,
you're the eye candy of the show. We discussed this.
Thanks, Teague.
there we go. I don't know what
Good
that
to
was
go?
about. But
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, anyway, there was so there was no goal during that year. That year was just to make it through the season and see what opportunities were next, because at the end of that year, like I said, I had fire under my butt, and that's what really got me going though. There was nothing before that though.
Well, that's awesome that you kind of lit that fire under yourself, because we talk about that sectional bracket, and I think a lot of guys in your situation would have the easy out where it's like, oh, well, I did good as a freshman. There was basically no way I was going to make it to state this year. Like, it's whatever. But for you, instead of being complacent, to rise up from that is awesome. So what changes did you make that off season?
I started going to Askren. I started working with Max Askren, just me and him though. It started with me and him first. Um, he really elevated my wrestling. I mean, so the problem was my freshman year, I did not shoot. You would never see me shoot, not one shot. I would always snap someone and get a go behind. But that was one thing I figured out was it's a lot better when you shoot. You can score more points, so that year we really just worked on my neutral game, really focused my how to get my attacks down and all of that. So then the next year I went into that high school season. I was my leader on takedowns. I had like, what did I have? Like 95 takedowns. It was, so I
Wow.
went from maybe 25 my freshman year to double digits. So that
Well,
was
what's really
pretty.
impressive about that was that was the COVID shortened season too.
Yes, that year was, yeah, it was very difficult too. Practicing in that mask was not the best thing. I mean, I hated that. I really did. I could not stand it. But it really did help cardio, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it really did. That's one. Um,
Yeah, Teague, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. That's probably I'm looking at your. So you were 18-5. That means you had 23. Maybe you finished with 25 matches, and you had over close to double digit singlets. Jeez, backwards singlets. Double digit takedowns is very
yeah,
impressive.
yeah, yeah. It was, that year wasn't the worst either. I mean, I had a sectionals with a tough opponent too, which was one of my. I think that was my second loss in the season, and that one was tough too because then, so I basically had to pray that he won his finals match so I would get a wrestle back, which I did, and I took the opportunity and won that one, and I headed off to state. And then the crazier thing was my coach was like, "You just got to win one match." That was the year where you had to win one match at state, and you were on the podium. So that first match was the most important, obviously, and that one went all the way to overtime, and it was pretty crazy. So, but I won that one. Fortunately, lost in the semis. But after that year too, I just knew I was getting better. I knew,
Hey, Austin, can I
figured.
can I cut you off a little bit here? I want to talk about your sophomore year. Teague, if you got the bracket up from Austin's sophomore year, go through the list of those 8 guys that are on there. Those are some really big names.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know there's one future state champ on there. I know Ingham was in the bracket.
Yes, yes,
Kazrowski, I say, he's one of the
yes.
better guys to not win a state title. Brody Hart, familiar name. Jernitz, DeCellier. Yeah, that's a stacked
Yeah,
bracket.
yeah,
I,
that one mini bracket was one of the best in the state, for
so,
sure.
Olson, I want to ask you, going back to sectionals real quick, it's your first match against Ian DeCellier, and I got to ask, and we'll talk more about those matches. Where does DeCellier rank amongst your high school rivals?
He's tough. He just is. He's up there. He's one of those guys. He'd definitely be number one because me and him have wrestled a couple of times. But he's just real lengthy, strong. I mean, can pin you at any moment. Really, he's the guy that he just really has. He has some moves that his cradle is the best thing though. If you stay away from that, you're usually good. And I figured that out the hard way twice though. Um, so yeah, my sophomore year, actually, so I came up, I was escaping and like I was about to get out, and I just nope, got my knee too close to my head, and I got crunched, and yeah, we figured that out. And then the next week, I wrestled them for fifth place, and I didn't get cratered at all, and match was pretty decent too. So I've had battles with him, but he just has that one weapon where if you get caught in it, you're pretty much done for.
Yeah, I'd say with his strength too. Yeah, that doesn't help the
Yeah,
cause if you're in one of those cradles.
yeah, it really does.
So how are you feeling then after you play sixth in a really tough 120-pound bracket your sophomore year? Where's the mindset at going into your junior off
My mindset
season?
was, then we were talking about state champs, and some people thought I was crazy. It always starts with your belief though. That's the one thing I've always taken away from wrestling. If you believe it first before anyone else does, it is possible. You can do it. So that summer I wrestled a lot. I even went out to California and trained with Daniel Cormier in his academy. So
Wow.
yeah, yes, that was some great learning too. Just rest because those California kids, they can scrap too. I mean, they got one division. It's so that's just the competition was up high for me. I also went to Fargo for which was good experience because those are state qualifiers too, state champs. The level. I was just climbing levels, and I really believed it that year that that summer, I mean, that I was really putting in the work though to to get better. And that year I focused a lot on we focused a lot on bottom because that was one of my things too. My weaknesses my sophomore year is like I could get out sometimes, but not always. And that's one thing that me and Max worked a lot on was that bottom work was you just need to get out, you know. Um, so that was a really good off season for me heading into my junior year.
So was the goal a state championship then junior year, or?
It was, yep.
Oh man, you had an impressive junior year. I don't know how many times we name dropped you on the podcast, but I think before we talk about the state experience, placing first at sectionals, and you got the win over DeSellier in the finals. How did that one feel?
That was the best feeling, avenging some of those losses, because he really was a rival. When people think about that, he gave me he was difficult, and getting that win, that was the one where we just controlled the match. Anytime I can control a match, which goes benefit towards me, is just that's a win for me. And I was able to control that match. We did everything right in that match. Now, kind of what happened at state, right, was that was the first year for me being at the Kohl Center. I've never been in an arena like even Fargo does not feel like that, and here's why. The problem is Fargo is like it's all spaced out. You got no
Mm-hmm.
pressure on you. You got these national ranked guys. I mean, even if you're all American too, it's amazing, right? But you get in the Kohl Center and it's small and everyone knows your name, and I think that's where you feel the pressure, and those lights do shine bright though. There's no lie about that about the Kohl Center. So
Did
right,
you did you feel any pressure? I mean, just having like this level of success from like the rise that you had. Did you feel any pressure like coming in undefeated? Like, did you think about that record at all? Because
really, yes, that was huge. That was yes. Mm, I knew it in my head too that I was like, I don't want to be that guy. You know, we were looking in the back to that state book, and it lists off how many people were undefeated in Division 2, and I don't even remember if I think it was under 10 or something.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was a lot of pressure though. I definitely felt that one though. There was no question about that. So
Obviously, you talk about the atmosphere of the Kohl Center. We talk about the record, and just compared to wrestling, in a high school gym from the year before, do you feel like your junior year at state was more of like making a mental adjustment than anything?
yes, it really was though. Yep. That's for sure because if you look back at my senior year, which obviously we'll get to, there was no question about that one. I was mentally everywhere. I mean, I just was there. And I would say junior year, I definitely was not there. Because when I went out for that match, right, we had the same game plan, which was control a match, pace, because I'm very good at like pacing myself. And then once I feel like I can break someone, that is usually when I pick up my pace. Um, so in that match, the match started out crazy because he got in a single leg, and that was the first shot he actually got into on my legs and that year. And I got taken down, and then I was coming up, and then I got crunched by a cradle, and I was like, and my mind's going crazy because it's like, what's going on here? And then after that, we get out, and that's the end. So it's 4-2 at that point. So my coach is like, "Don't panic. It's all right, right? We're only down by 2 and it's second period." But I think I panicked a little bit. I was like, "Well, crap! I'm gonna lose this match." Like mentally, I was not there, which is why I took one of the most. I've never. It was kind of a weird shot where I kind of shot like a fireman's and sweeped it, and it was a hip toss, and that's one of his favorite moves too. And it was just totally not me, and obviously I got caught. But I think that year, right, it was a mental adjustment, but it showed more about my character of coming back for a third, because that always shows character. if you fall and you're able to stand up and come back, that shows more of a character though. So there was a lot
How,
of lessons the year.
how long did that take, Ostin, after the quarterfinals loss? Right. I mean, you got some time, right? I mean, what did you do to collect yourself, and what did you tell yourself to make that run for third?
Coaches just, they're like, we still got one more year. We're not done, but we just talked a lot about wrestling you. That was the thing. Was he just said wrestle you, which was what Al Costello told me. He just said we wrestle ourselves, and that was only what I needed, because after that I didn't. There was no shots like that. Yes, I had a tough third place match, but like these matches were good now. Now I was controlling the match. There was no chaos, I would say. That was what I needed. Was just like don't let the chaos get to you, because that's what it really was. When that chaos got to me, I folded there. So that was what hurt me that year mentally.
Well, Austin, Ostin, man, almost made it through the whole show without messing
Yeah,
up.
people, I get a lot of names out there. A lot of people confuse it. They think
Steve and
it's
I
amazing.
have Steve had a little typo this morning. I messed up Denis last night. We've been on a roll this week. I think the really cool thing about you coming back for 30s, I mean, you talked about what it did for your character. It shows your character, but you beat Derek Jernitz, who beat you at state the year before, which was
I had a
pretty
lot
awesome.
of.
Seems like you're pretty good at those rematches.
He really is. Yep. Yep.
And I was so a couple of questions for you before we talk about your junior off season and your senior year. But obviously the win against DeSallier was pretty big at sectionals. Did you have a match or a win before that, whether it be your junior or sophomore year or even freshman year, where in your head or in your coach's head where you're like, wow, like I'm the real deal. I could do big things in this sport.
Winning Oshkosh on the Water, that's a huge tournament. That tournament's really big, and that's one where you have a lot of crowd too. Winning that, yeah, definitely was one on my bucket list. Before that, yeah, for sure.
And then another thing with your junior year, pretty cool team accomplishment for Campbellsport, which, given your regional, it's a dogfight every single year. But how was the experience of making team sectionals and wrestling there?
Team sectionals was pretty awesome. I mean, we really did have a shot though, but something about Winneconne, they always have us just a little bit, and yeah, unfortunately we fell to them, but just I would say getting the experience in like having that kind of team, because I don't before that it was a while before we even made it to team sectionals. I mean, we won conference, we kept our streak going, which was really important that year. That was tough through me wrestling well and also wrestling well for the team too. Sometimes you can't forget about the team too. It is a team sport. Um, but yeah, team sectionals was pretty awesome though.
How was that regional day? You guys win by 10 points, which in short, that just means every single match mattered. Like, just take us through that day, man.
It was pretty crazy though, because we were it was in our own gym, right? So we were looking at the computer and track wrestling. We had it up, and every time Lamira wrestled, we were just praying that we performed well, and also that they did not, which in the end helped us out. But yeah, that was crazy too. That team race was very tight.
And so this was the last year, I'm pretty sure, because he graduated this year, but how much did having a Drake Muhlenbach as a partner those 3 years help out your wrestling career? Because Steve and I, we always talk about, and a lot of coaches talk about on the show, good wrestlers come in twos, because it's usually a guy and their partner. And you and Drake were fortunate to have each other in the wrestling room, and I'm sure you helped him a lot along the way as well. But what impact did he have on you as a wrestler?
He really helped me out my freshman year and all through. But starting with my freshman year, I mean, he was that guy that was there to kind of guide me a little bit, right? I really didn't know much about wrestling then. That year before that, he was a state qualifier, so he knew what that felt like, right? He knew what that level was like. So just mentoring me through that year. And then sophomore year, me and him were kind of on the same level because I jumped that summer just by working at Askren. So me and him were on the same level. We were training, we were learning different moves. Just being, he was just a great partner and all, though.
Mm-hmm.
Great too. Um, Junior year was pretty awesome too. Unfortunately for him, he never got to the he got to the state podium once, but for his senior year, I felt I felt more bad in that way because he wasn't able to get on that podium. But in all, he's one of the great training partners I've had come through there. I also had a senior that year that worked with me too, Roman, who was our 126, and he helped a lot too. But Drake was a great training.
Good
It's
stuff,
neat
man.
that yeah, it's good that you. I knew you would talk about your team because I reached out to a few coaches from your area. Ostin, one of them's Doug Forsyth, the North Fond du Lac coach, and he just sang your praises. But one of the things that he said about you is that he just enjoyed watching you cheer on your team, and you always seem to be so involved in your teammates. And for you to talk about going to team sectionals and your teammates there, it's you seem to be that kind of guy that you want to win yourself, but you want your teammates to win just as badly. So.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I always believe if we all suffer in the moment together, that in the end things will work out eventually. Um, that's kind of how we believe this year too. In the last 2 years, that's just what the coach preached, and I believed it too, and I believe my teammates work that same way.
So I gotta ask you because you're rocking the shirt. I love to see it. If you have more available, I'll gladly take some. But
We
how did the nickname Haitian Sensation come about? I was hoping like you came up with it your freshman year as like a 500 wrestler just to like pump yourself up. But I need to know the
yeah,
origin. Well, I know kind of the origin story, but how the nickname come about?
uh, I mean, honestly, the one time I remember was actually AWA duels, and this was this was heading into my junior year, and one of the Askren coaches, he posted something on Facebook, and it said the Haitian sensation with some funky chain wrestling. And after that, it really stuck with me. That was the one time it stuck with me. I mean, I don't know where he got it. It's definitely I've definitely heard it before, but maybe just not used it in that way. But then after that year, it really stuck with me though. I wanted that nickname. I liked it a lot. Um, so yeah, that's just a little story behind it.
Yeah, even you got the shout out on TV. I almost got in trouble with the network for it, but we
Yeah, that we were me and my mom were sitting downstairs and we were watching it, and she's like, Did he just really say that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he did give me a shout out." And then that's when you told me I gotta put it in my bio, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, how come I don't have it in here?" That was pretty awesome too.
Oh man, that's fun times, fun times. I gotta. So after junior year, you fell short of that state title you were looking for, and it seems like you managed to like raise your work ethic a notch like every year. It's one of those deals where you don't
It really,
think you can work harder until you actually do it, and it seems like you put in all the work you could up until this point. But did you manage to take that to another level going into your senior year? How did that off season look?
I did. I went to Fargo again. This time I made day two for Fargo, so that was a huge accomplishment. Just making day two, year by year you want to grow as a wrestler, but also as a person. But that year mentally I was in wrestling. um yeah, I went to Fargo, I made day two, but also in the fall I competed a lot at very tough tournaments. I did PNL, which is with all these clubs. You got Askren, Valiant Prep, which is a very good club from Arizona, M2 Train, which is run by the Olympic champ David Taylor. So you got all these tough clubs, and this is just a tournament in Chicago, and you have a lot of tough guys in your. I was in a bracket with Ben Bast, and a couple of the guys we wrestled were like nationally ranked at that time. So was he, like top 10. So just exposing myself to that competition really helped me a lot. Going to Super 32 was one of the biggest ones too. It really is the toughest folk style tournament on the planet though. Because of how big the brackets are, but also that year, the top 20 kids nationally were like, and 126 were there. There was like some crazy amount of national kids just in that 126 bracket. So that even made it tougher, and it just gave me great experience before my senior year.
That's one heck of an off season, man. I'd say you prepped pretty well on the road to a state title. So, talking about your senior year, the first match that jumps out to me, I'm guessing you were at the Dells duels, but you had a lot of good competition your senior year. But Mr. Roan Carey of Mineral Point gave you a pretty good match at the Devils duels. If you want to take us through that one, you did end up winning 5-3.
Yeah, that was a good match. I mean, I knew who he was. I heard of his name before, but obviously I've never wrestled him before. But just getting that experience, he was big Greco guy, so I knew I had to stay out of the double overs, otherwise I was gonna get launched. Figured some ways to score some points, and at the end there, I mean, after I won the match, I went to shake his coach's hand, and he was like, "We're cheering for you. We don't know who you are, but we really are cheering for you." That showed me a lot. That even my opponents, coaches, look at me different, and just start wishing the best luck for me. So that was a tough tournament too. That was good experience. Just because that tournament, you can run into multiple teams, right? And it's a team tournament, and it shows a lot of character what your team's gonna be like in the preseason kind of wrestling.
So that man would be Mr. Curtis Fiedler that shook your hand. Great guy, recurring guest on the show. He'll appreciate the shout out. And it's kind of funny now that I put the pieces together, now that you brought up that you had trouble working out from bottom. If you got an escape from Roan Carey, then props to you. I think your character arc was completed there, because we always say you never choose down on a Mineral Point guy.
Yeah, he was tough in neutral, but also that match. I mean, I remember there was our crowd, and then Mineral Point had they come in bunches. They really do. So they had a lot of people on their side too, and everyone clapped. There's no negativity too. I remember, so that was great too. Just knowing their fans, we gave them a good match.
Well, jumping ahead a little bit to On the Water, and you Tekken made your way through to the finals, and you have, it might have been one of the best matches of the holiday tournament weekend, but you do lose to Jacob Herm 5-4. Herm's a great wrestler in his own right, but if you want to take us through that match and then just where you were at mentally after that one.
So coming into that match, I was already injured. So in the semis, I actually sprained my ankle. But I still was gonna wrestle no matter what, because that's just the kind of person I am. It wasn't that injured to the point where I couldn't wrestle. Um, so that match, I controlled it off the bat, but it was back to a mental thing. I lost it. I really did. And in the end, he won, right? But then just going back to that after that match, our coach is like, we definitely needed that, because like what that taught me was things that I need to like that I got exposed on that I need to fix. One of them was just riding a guy and being able to turn. So for the next month or two, I mean, I just worked with Max. And I had privates with other state qualifiers and state champs like Ben Bass, Colin McDowell. I mean, those were people in my privates, and we all were getting better on top and bottom. And in those times, I really was just focused on top, being able to ride a guy and hold the guy down and being able to turn just makes you in control of the match. And that match got a little bit away from us because the problem was, so I didn't even myself was when you actually, I took 2 injury timeouts because of my ankle. He actually got to pick what position he wanted. So he chose down, obviously, and he got to escape. And we never thought of, you know, there's no excuses to it. I'm sure a guy that likes excuses, but I know that in that match. So just the loss was what I needed. I feel like that fueled me to push past to state.
Another match that stuck out to me, Ostin, was and he's a good wrestler in his own right, but he kept it pretty close with you, and I think we might have talked about it on the show, but the 4-2 match with Edwin Schrader of Oshkosh West
Yes.
in the
That
Herb
was
Tyler finals.
that was another match too that taught me a lot because I didn't know who he was either. I mean, I heard his name because he wrestled at Oshkosh in a while, but he was a weight class below me, so obviously he wasn't in my bracket. But yeah, that was a good match because he actually he was one of the guys to ever like keep me down for a period, right? We talk about like having like our weaknesses being exposed. That was one of them too. Was just when guys would you and I learned a lot that day too. We went back and we worked exactly on what he was doing, and we fixed that problem. Um, I think I always take it this way in wrestling that losing is sometimes the best thing that you need. Just to because then you can fix everything that has gone wrong so that it
Mm-hmm.
never again. So that's how I looked at that. Even that I didn't lose that match, I still in some areas took it as a loss though because I was
Yeah.
not able to perform.
Well, Ostin, let's go to the postseason here, where you made pretty easy work, I'd say, all the way to the state tournament, and
Yes,
then going into state this year. So you had your first tournament at the Kohl Center last year. You had that record kind of hanging over you your junior year. How was your mind? Do you feel like your mindset was a lot better heading in?
Mentally it was there, but physically I wasn't. That Monday I actually sprained my MCL though. Not a lot
Oh,
of
geez.
people know that. We kept that a very good secret because obviously you don't want your opponents to know that, right? So in practice I sprained it. I mean the next day I went to the doctor, and that was when we had all those snowstorms too that week. So there was a lot of downtime at home, and I just laid at the couch and rested my feet up, iced it, heat, was trying to do the best as I could because the problem was that was my like wasn't my lead leg, but it was my back leg. And that was one of the that's one of my most important legs, it keeps me moving there obviously, and it was just I wasn't able to be mobile with it. And the day that we left for state, I was like, I think I'm gonna be good. I knew immensely that this wasn't gonna stop me from winning a state title because, like, right, we it's all mental. It really is because when I got on that first match against Garrett Marks, there was no problem. I could shoot fine. So, but that did give us a little scare, though. You talk about negative things. That's just like something you don't want to start the week off with getting injured. And I obviously my ankle was all healed. I fixed that up, but that was just another little speed bump in the road to that title.
And at the state tournament, you beat Garrett Marks of Winneconne 11-2, which I'm sure, being from Winneconne, maybe a little extra satisfaction in that win. You beat.
Yeah, for sure. Me and him had a couple matches too. I wrestled him 3 times actually in 1 year, so he probably hated wrestling me too, though. Just because time he would think it'd be closer, but it wouldn't. No, I
Yeah.
read the
Just just a junior is Garrett, so I'm sure he's glad to see you go.
yeah.
Olsen, I got to ask before we talk state finals here, but how much did it mean over the course of your 4 years to keep that undefeated conference record for Campbellsport?
It was pretty amazing though. That was one that's a cool streak right there. Just to know that a lot of people in the state know about that too. I think it's It's 219 now, something around there. I hope it sticks for next year, but Lamira's always edging. They're always there on our toes, so who knows? But I really do hope that sticks around for a couple more years. But yeah, that record that's pretty cool.
Good stuff, man. Going into your finals, so I know the storyline that Steve and I built up. You and Luke Dukes from Neilsville, both guys that were probably on the same page in terms of you're both seniors hungry looking for that state title. Did you know anything about Luke going into the match? Did you guys happen to wrestle in the off season? So were you familiar with them, and how were you feeling heading into the finals?
Yes, I wrestled him previously at Freestyle though. Wrestled him at Freestyle State. Lost that match. I don't remember the score of it, but we were feeling really good, and the problem was obviously he had was it I don't know if it was his thumb or pinky, but it was broken anyway that he had surgery on it, and he didn't wrestle the whole year, right? He came back like a month or so. So he was right. He wasn't in the best of shape, and I knew that. So we just talked about that going into that match. We're just gonna control the match, and when we get in the third period, we're just gonna pour it all in, which is what happened, right? Obviously, he got the first takedown, and I'll be honest, that was nerves. I mean, when you talk about having nerves, is state finals. I mean, even jumping up and down, I was looking up. I looked up once, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" You can just feel the atmosphere, like your heart's thumping and all of that. And it's no joke. And a lot of kids make it look easy, but I promise you, they had nerves too. And just being able to like be in your head, and like my coach was like, "No, we're good." We get taken down. I get an escape. I get out. I take him down. He gets out, and then that's when we knew as soon as we got that final takedown that we were just gonna go to work on top. Which was again what I mentioned was one of the problems that cost me at the beginning of the year, and I wasn't gonna let it happen again. So obviously the stall calls, right? I got one stall call. I knew that was fine. But the other one, I didn't agree it so much because the thing was he wasn't making an attempt to get up either. So, but then, my coaches like to do this thing where I always tell them to yell when 30 seconds, 30 seconds in a match. I just need to know the time. Obviously I'm not gonna look at the clock. So they yell 30 seconds, and that's just when I got that return, right? And I had the perfect like cheap tilt kind of. I did to his stomach, and I just rolled through with it. It was perfect because as soon as the ref said one and he swiped, I knew I had it then. So just mentally, I was in that match. I wasn't gonna lose because of what happened at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like a tale of three different like periods here when you look at the box score, and like the game plan went perfect. I mean, you poured it on. It was a 5-1 second period, and then I remember watching that. You were up by one. That stalling point was like kind of in play still, and when you got that near fall, man, that was crazy.
That sealed it all. That felt great because I knew as soon as I heard the ref even count, I knew that was the match then. And I think mentally he knew it was too. If you actually watch the television one, he just shook his head because he knew it was over for him.
So how'd you feel you kind of had a sense when you got the two near fall, but how'd you feel when the clock finally hit 0?
That was just me celebrating. I mean, running and jumping, almost jumping over my coach. That was.
I mean, it's just crazy to think it's something that like 4 years ago you didn't even think about being in the finals. You were just looking 4 years ago. You were thinking about maybe playing basketball.
Right.
And now,
Yeah.
And now you're a state champ.
Yeah. One of my assistant coaches actually, he came down because he was at state. He's like, and you should have played basketball. And he always says that when he sees me. And I was like, Yeah. He's like,
That's
no one
funny.
would have ever knew this was possible. So it's always funny because my grandpa and my dad always jokes about that, and they're like, yeah, you were gonna play basketball. Remember that? And, I think back to that day, and I was like, what was I thinking? But
No kid.
that, yeah.
Wow.
Well, listen, I got to ask. It was cool because I remember sitting next to you. It was, I think, it might have been Saturday morning, but it was
Hmm.
cool for you. And we just talked about how you've been such a good teammate so much. You were basically like coaching Joseph Voles from the stands. You guys probably don't really wrestle each other a lot in practice, but
We don't.
was it
No,
cool to have a teammate there again? Kind of like you had Drake for a couple of years, to have a teammate there to share that experience with?
it was. It was because he fell short last year too, and he had a lot of pressure on him because he was the 2 seed too. People were expecting him to be in the finals, and just seeing him win his first match at state, because after that he lost and he was done for. So just seeing him win that first match and being able to take third was awesome.
Did you throwing a little Campbellsport trivia your way? And I don't even know the answer to this, but was the last Campbellsport state champ Ryan Costello?
Yeah. Yes, he was. Yep. 2013. It's 13 years. So
Wow.
yeah, I snapped a streak. I mean, I wanted to do it the year before that, but it didn't go as planned, obviously. So
I would say about that junior year too. I forgot to bring it up then. To your credit, it seemed like DeSallier was on a roll that year too.
he
Like
won.
not just
He
against you, but even in a semis match, he just looked amazing.
he really did. I mean, because he took out. Because yeah, I was the 4 seed. He was the 5. He took out the 1 seed too, and no one pictured that. That bracket was the whole bottom. The bottom side was correct, and everything went through, but the top side, no, there's plenty of upsets there.
So it's obviously a big state title for you, Ostin. You end your career with the state championship. I guess if you just want to sum up your career, what did it mean? Like, what does wrestling mean to you, like right now? And just and also adding on to that, what did it mean to bring a state title back to Campbellsport?
What wrestling means to me is just it's something. I mean, now that I like the sport so much, I just think about it's you versus one person, and you got time to make adjustments, and if you truly set a goal, you can achieve it. That's the one thing I think this you it's one of the greatest sports out there where it's just yourself, right? And you're going after one goal, and whatever that goal is, that's just you are on a mission. And I mean, just to bring it back to Campbellsport, that was pretty cool too, because obviously a lot of people knew me at their school. I mean, my mom works at my school, um, so just a lot of people knew who I was and what I was going for. But when I achieved it, that was the amazing part. Was just that I I know that now when I look back at that school, that I gave them something that was great too.
We real quick, we got a shout out on Rockfin. It was at the start of the episode. I just haven't been able to slip it in. But Steve Boobolts, if you know him, or Bubbles, he says, "My man Ollie Boomaya." So that's looks like we got another nickname for you.
Yes, that comes from Dejan Johnson's dad, actually. Dimitri is his name. He always says that. I don't know where he got it from, but he always calls me that. He always screams that out. And I really don't know what it means, but
Hey, Olson, you talk about Campbell Sport, and obviously my era. I'm not going to tell you how much older than you I am, but back from my era when Campbell Sport, obviously look up on the wall and you probably see names like John Dexter and Jeff Birschbach
yes.
and things like
Yep.
that. Did any of those guys, have you crossed paths with any of those guys? Any of those guys reach out or?
Yeah, he was actually one of the guys. I told him I was like I told him after my freshman year, because that year I sat in the stands and watched my teammates wrestle. I was like, I'm gonna win state one day. And to this day he laughs at that, because he was like, that year I was like, yeah,
Are you
Yeah,
talking
maybe.
John Dexter right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he gave me like a 25% chance. He said honestly, and until this day, he can't believe it either. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I run
Well,
across him
I don't know
because
what kind of shape he's in now. I mean, maybe if you want to take him on, you could probably take him. But John Dexter was one of the most intimidating. He was a mean son of a gun on the mat, man, and
he was
he just
yes.
yeah he so. But yeah, like I said, maybe I'd like to see that match between you and him now.
I don't know if we could do that. He's retired. I don't know if he moves like that anymore.
30-second periods.
Right, right.
So Ostin, you committed to Bellarmine, which is in as we talked about before the show, it's in Louisville, Kentucky. When did you? Because when we had like the four timers on, they're like, yeah, we had 100 schools call us like at midnight the first day of recruiting. How did your recruiting look?
Um, Recruiting for me was very lightly. It all started with the Division three schools in this state. UW La Crosse, UW Whitewater, UW Oshkosh, all of them. But I would say when I got like my first big name was after Fargo my junior year when NDSU called me, and we started the process with them. I actually took a visit there in October, at the end of October last year, and then and then Parkside, obviously Nick Becker knew who I was, so me and him already set one up right after Fargo, so that that visit was set up right away. But Bellarmine actually they reached out to me when after let's see, after Super 32 it actually was. Um and this was Noah Hardy, who knows Max Askren. He wrestled at Concordia. And when he reached out, he was like, yeah, I'm at Bellarmine, this university down in Louisville, Kentucky. And I never really thought anything of it because at that time I had my mind actually made up though. I was gonna go to Parkside at that time because I felt like at that time that was the best fit for me. I liked Becker. I liked what he was doing with the program, and just obviously a great program, you know. But then I would say the opportunity for me was why I chose Bellarmine was number one, I'm huge on education, right? You can't wrestle forever, and their graduation rate it's amazing. So they do a lot of good stuff down there off the mat, right? You can be a great student athlete too. And number two was just Ned Shuck. He really is an amazing coach. When he told me his story, which he actually walked onto Iowa and started for the Brands, it just shows you what you can accomplish even when no one knows your name, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he was just, I believe in his coaching philosophy, and I think we're gonna do some great things together. So that is why I chose them.
That's they came late in the game too. It seems it when you talk about your life, it seems like there's a lot of things that like it happened at like the perfect time, and like
Yes,
whether it be a lesson or an opportunity, like a lot of things have come into shape. But I mean, even beyond that, like you got to be able to like take those lessons and work with them or take advantage of those opportunities. So it's not
yeah,
just about like destiny; it's about taking advantage of those moments, and you did exactly that, sir. And so your coach, I just wanted to say real quick, your coach gave a little bio on you. Of course, that's where I got the singlet picture. But Coach Costello also said, more importantly, I think, even than the accomplishments, I said, Ostin is a great wrestler, but even greater guy off the mat. He's a friend to everyone and wants to see everyone reach their fullest potential. Which, when we tell, like, everyone that I've told, like, we're going to have you on the show, they have like a story about you, whether it be like their kid or it's a wrestler that's like, oh yeah, I know him. Like it does seem like one of those dudes with magnetic personalities that people want to be around.
Yeah, Scott Cleaver last night, Teague. He had some good stuff to say about you as well.
So
yeah. I mean,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I've always been like an energized, I guess. I always bring positive. I try to keep the negativity out and just be a positive person in all. So I think being that teammate that's positive with everyone around them just makes everyone else better, you know.
What are your so do you have any goals in mind right now for college wrestling, or are you going to wait and see kind of how the first year goes? And I guess even beyond college wrestling, do you plan on sticking with wrestling stuff in the future? Like, do you maybe plan on getting back into coaching?
I don't have a goal necessarily for college, but I do have a goal for freestyle, being being the Olympics one day. That's definitely one of my goals because I'd love to represent Haiti too. I mean, that'd be great because that's one of the connections I had with NDSU. Their head coach now, who was their assistant, Obi Blanc, he's Haitian, so he's from Haiti. So he's always kept this goal in mind. He said, one day we're gonna start a Haitian team for freestyle. So that's one of my goals too, is Olympics, whether it's Haiti or United States. But yeah, I got a goal for freestyle. So.
Awesome.
That'd be cool to represent Haiti. That'd be awesome.
Yes, it would be.
So that's what I got for goals and stuff. Steve, I know you have the hard hitting questions here for Ostin.
Oh, geez, I was so into it. I forgot about the.
Yeah.
Are we at that time here? All right.
It is about that time.
Here we go. A speed round of questions. Ostin, you ready?
Yeah.
First answer that comes to mind. You already answered one of these already, so I was a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So here we go. Here's number one. Favorite takedown.
Favorite takedown. Single leg.
Single leg. I thought you were going to say the snap down with all your snap down takedowns your freshman year, but it's a good setup. Favorite pinning combination.
Pinning combination. I would say a Turk.
Leg Turk. Good move. Excellent. Can score from anywhere with a leg Turk. Favorite post weigh-in food.
What did I go with? I got it with Uncrustables. They're really good after cutting
That's
off.
peanut butter and jelly, right? I mean, isn't that
Yes,
what that is?
sir.
Yes. All right. Hey, put another one in, man. Seems like everybody's either Subway or PB&J. All right, so this one's kind of a either or, right? Because I've heard some guys say they don't listen to music before they wrestle, but you're about ready to go on the mat. Your favorite song you're listening to, or your favorite, like for a duel, what would be your walkout song?
I always listen to music when I go out on the mat. You know, before I go out there, it's just something. It blocks everything out for me. I know some people don't use it, but I love using it. And favorite song before a duel. I mean, Thunderstruck.
Like you're about ready to wrestle in the state championship. You're trying to block everything out. You got like 3 minutes before they call you out there. On your headphones, what's the song you have on? Your go-to song?
Has to be Thunderstruck. That gets me fired up. Yeah.
Old school, baby.
Yes,
I know that one, Teague. Ostin, there's so many times where guys will say songs in here, and Teague goes, "Oh, Steve, I'll send it to you." I'm like, "I've never heard of that one," but Thunderstruck, man, great song. Past or present, your favorite wrestler?
Favorite wrestler? Jordan Burroughs. President.
Good answer. I think we know the answer to this one, but your biggest rival individual?
Ian DeCellular.
All right, your biggest rival as a team, your biggest team rival?
Winneconne.
There it is, the Wolves. But awesome, man. Hey, man, it's been awesome to have you. It's been great to get to know you better here.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, Ostin, just getting to know your story more, and we knew a little bit about you, knew you were a fan of the show, and just to get you on and kind of have all those comments that we heard about you be verified, and you have a great story, and I like your story too, because you went from being a 500 wrestler to being a state champ. And it can be a great story for everyone. Like if you put in the work and the time, you can reach those goals. It doesn't even necessarily need to be state champ, but you made it, man. You did it, and I think above all, you're a good kid too. So we appreciate you coming on, and Yeah, best of luck to you. We'll be keeping track of you in the future. Maybe we'll get you back on once you make it to the Olympics.
Yeah, that's the goal. I always set the goal as 2028, which is in California, I think.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's the goal.
Well, hey, hopefully we'll still be around. You have to promise you can't big time us, though. If we invite you, you got to come back.
That's right.
All right.
But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler podcast. Don't know who we're having on next, but we got a couple game plans for the end of August here. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, for what was a great episode. And until next time, we will catch you